Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 5/19/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 105. And today I made it through ES6 modules in JavaScript section. I'm 20% complete. And like I said, I got through ES6 modules. So without further ado, let's get started. Today's just going to be a discussion. I will start off by saying I went back and forth several times about doing a live video with you guys with the exercise that's embedded here. But the longer I went through it and the more I got down through it, the more involved it was, in a good way, but just too much for video. It would have made for a really long video, and I've said this in the past, but it would have made for a really long video that nobody would watch. So I highly encourage you to step through this ES6 modules very slowly. Don't skip any of the articles. There's several good articles sprinkled inside of here. The history of JavaScript, don't skip that. NPM, Jest, there's all kinds of good stuff talked about in here. The tutorials, this starts walking you through Webpack here. Just don't skip anything, I guess, is the theme. So with that said, I'm not going to show you really what I worked on because it's all step by step, get you through the tutorial. Just follow along with it, especially it starts right here. And as far as the doing stuff part of this exercise or part of this module. But yeah, it'll step you through everything from A to Z on how to set up the Webpack and then using NPM, and then it will step you through secondarily as a part 2 on it. It will when you get into ES6 modules down here, it will step you through a little bit of taking it all the way home to home base, so to speak, and showing you how to write a Webpack for an ES6 module and save it out using NPM and NPX. So that's pretty cool. It was actually a lot of fun. It was a lot, but it was a lot of fun. Just a lot of steps. It's not hard. I don't think you guys will find it hard, but there's just a lot of steps. So it would have made for a really terrible video. So I decided not to do that. So we're just going to do the knowledge check here today, and so just be a good discussion about ES6 modules. So I split this up into 2 days. So some of this stuff might be a little brain foggy, but we'll get through it here. Explain what NPM is and where it was commonly used before being adopted on the front end. Yep. So let's shoot. Okay. So yeah. So it takes you out to this Peter Yang's blog, and it's a really good article that you'll have to read through the requirements of the module. But essentially, NPM, he steps you through a lot of stuff. This is a really good article. It's a long read, but it's really interesting. It goes over the history of how everything evolved and how JavaScript started as vanilla, and then you added tools on top of it, and basically NPM came along. Let's see if I can find this in the article. It stands for Node Packet Manager. We've used it a little bit, and it started around 2010. Several competing. Sorry, I forgot to mute my phone. Sometimes I do that. Okay. Several competing JavaScript package managers emerged to help automate the process of downloading, upgrading libraries from a central repo, and Bower and Yarn and NPM were one of the. Particularly Bower and NPM were in 2013-2015 era, and NPM kind of took over in the coming years as kind of the main one because they also perfected maybe not perfect is not the right word, but I'll just use that word, perfected the back end with Node.js, and so excuse me, and it's designed to run on a server, not the front end, for Node.js anyway, but it made it a weird choice for front-end developers, I suppose. But it was a good choice because it was kind of an all-in-one solution using npm with Node.js. So it says, note that npm was originally a package manager made specifically for Node.js, a JavaScript runtime and designed to run on the server, not the front end. Okay. And then it goes through how to install it and set it up. So describe what npm init does and what package JSON is. So that's in the same article in this right here, actually. So npm init, what it does is it prompts you with several questions, and basically this sets you up through the initialization. I think init means initialization, but it starts the setup process for npm as your package. It'll send you through several prompt questions that are defaulted within npm, and then you just answer them, and then it outspits this package.json file, and that's what that does. Is those are basically the answers to the questions that when you went through init. Those are, so it asks you for your name, your project, the version, a description if you want, the main, which is the JavaScript, the name of the main JavaScript file that will be in your source, scripts, and then test if you have if you want to put a test in there. Otherwise, it echoes this default here. Author if you want it, and license if you prefer to put a license in there if your product is licensed in fact and proprietary. And that's essentially how to answers that one anyway. Know how to install packages using npm. Okay, so this steps out to the npm JS docs. They actually have you read through some of this as part of the exercise, and don't skip this. It is important to know this stuff. I mean, you'll use it and relearn it later as you reference it, but it's good just to get a cursory knowledge of it. So you just use npm install and then the package name, the name of that package that you're wanting to install. That that's for an unscoped package. And then you use, if you have a scope package, which is a public package, you use @scope, which is scope would be like where you're getting it from, and then the package name there for that's been npm packaged. And you can actually scope a private package as well. Again, it'll take the scope of where it's at, whether it's a username or a server location, and then the name of the package as well. And sorry, I keep doing that. My Alt tab's not working today. Let's see. Describe what a JavaScript module bundler like Webpack is. So this takes you back out to the article we were just at. It's jumping around a lot of today, but that's all right. We'll work through it. Webpack. Yep. So Webpack. Let's get to that section. Use a JavaScript module bundler. So basically, Webpack is in a 30,000-foot answer. The question is describe what a JavaScript module bundler like Webpack. So they're different bundlers. Webpack is probably one of the more popular ones, or one of the more widely used ones, I guess, maybe. But basically, it allows you to create modules like we have been in JavaScript, but then it allows you to save them as individual files and then create a package where you'll have, and we'll go over this more probably in other questions, but where you can have it reference and do import exports to other files, where you have, say, you can create a JavaScript file that's just a script for a particular module, and you can import export that to your main JavaScript page for use, and it keeps things clean and organized, and most importantly to reuse. So you can reuse that module in other parts of your code instead of having to recreate the wheel every time you make a project. So that is really cool. So explain what the concepts of entry and output mean as it relates to Webpack. So entry, I think I can answer this without even going to the article, but Entry is the file you your source file. This is the file you work with, you code in every day, your JavaScript file, and the output is your destination, your distribution location. This is what gets compiled through the Webpack modules and gets outputted, and that output is what the end user sees in the browser. So basically it translates it and transcribes it to to basically code almost JSON style format, or not JSON, more like XML style format that's just read by the browser. If you try to look at it, it's I'll show you an example. It's pretty messy. Um, let's see. Let's take a look at this. Here. That's not bad. But see how it re-renders it, and so this is just basically for the browser. But I had one earlier that was a um, really messy. Anyway, I don't want to hold up on that too long. But basically, like I said, is the output that goes to the browser. Briefly explain what a development dependency is. Don't remember that one. Demystifying DevOps. Ooh. I may have accidentally skipped an article, because that does not look familiar at all. Yeah. I must have skipped something. Or they put the wrong question in there, because we'll skip that. I didn't go over that. Explain what transpiling code means and how it relates to front-end development. So this takes you back out to the blog. A lot of these are the blog. This is really good articles, so make sure that you read through this. Take your time with it. It's really good. So transpiling, or how you say that? Transpiling. Transpiling code for new languages. So like Babel's an example of a tool that transpiles. So basically it means converting the code from one language to another in a similar language. This is an important part of front-end development since browsers are slow to add new features. New languages were created with experimental features that transpile in browser-compatible languages. So for CSS, there's Sass, Less, and Stylus, just to name a few. The most popular transpiler for a long time was CoffeeScript, made in 2010, and then nowadays a lot of people use Babel or TypeScript. So basically, in a nutshell, it gives developers the ability to have the freedom to code additional forward and backward compatible syntax, and the browser will be able to read it because tools like Babel will make them compatible for all versions of browsers. You basically tell it you put in your code, and you tell the application what versions that you want it to be compatible with of a browser, and it will make that happen for you automatically. Briefly describe what a task runner is and how it's useful in front end. Again, back to this article. Task runner. So, let's see. Don't exactly remember this one. npm scripts. Okay, so this is basically, it's not that hard. So this is the package JSON file, config file we were talking about earlier. And what you can do here is you can put in a build and a watch called Webpack. You actually go through this exercise in the module. Basically, excuse me, it's a shortcut key. So like you do like npm build would be the name of it, and then that would actually be the keyword it would run, and it will actually look in here for the script, and it'll say, okay, build, and we're going to run Webpack, and we're going to do mode production progress. And so you could do, npm watch, and it would do Webpack progress watch, something to that effect. Basically just creates a shortcut bind key that allows you, instead of typing out the entire syntax to run your npm script, you can just use a binding, basically a shortcut binder, and they call that task runner, essentially. So here's the example of npm run build. So it's called build. You're doing calling npm, and then you're going to do the run, because you're telling npm I want to run, and you're going to run the build script, which is right here. So that's essentially that. Don't want to spend too much time here. Video is already at 15 minutes, so let's see if we can get through all this. Describe how to write an npm automation script. I think that's what we just were at. Yeah, we were just on that. So that's this whole section talks about how to do that, basically. And it talks about like the saving the environment. You can do development or production. Excuse me. And whatever you choose will give you a different set of, if I remember right, it'll give you a different set of parameters. So like dev will give you certain parameters and tools to use, and production will give you a different set. So to install, so in this example, to install as a development dependency, you're going to enter the command npm install webpack dev server save dev. And save dev is important because if you don't put that in there, I don't believe it will save it out. It won't save out all the tools. It'll just load it locally, and then you'll have to load it locally every single time. If you do the save command, I believe it will save it out there on your machine, so you don't have to keep running that over and over. Yeah. So, and they're saying serve here. You can start it, and it'll kind of do like live code, or what is it called? Live server in Vscode is similar. With the localhost 8080 by default, if you run the serve command with npm, and that's that. Explain one of the main benefits of writing code in modules. So I went over that earlier, but that's essentially being able to write modules and save them out as a Webpack is pretty amazing, because you can use modules, like creating a script. Sometimes it's better to show you. So like, here's an example you go through in the exercises. So here is a myname.js source script that you type out, and this is an example of a module. So this is an ES6 module. So we have a constant myname, and takes a parameter name, and it spits out hi, my name is, and then parameter name. And you export that default my name, and then I'm cursory. This is cursory info, obviously. I'm not going through this line by line with you or anything. So if you're confused, that you'll get it. You'll get it when you go through the exercise. But so you're going to export default my name, and this is called a default module, default style, or yeah. Anyway, default means you can only use one, essentially. You can only have one, export one variable, one name. So my name's fine, and you import it on the other file. So our other file is index.js. So we import my name from /my name, because that's where the module is located, the file. And then we run it in here, and we run a component function inside, and it spits out some stuff on the screen. Just a simple example, but that's how that works. But the cool part, one of the things I caught on, was that you can save my name. So say, this is a pretty crude example, but say you had like 100 lines of code here that did one thing called my name, and you're like, man, I would love to not have to do that ever again, because it took me forever to figure it out. I got it saved, and I'm good. Well, you can export that like this and use this right here as an import function, kind of like in other languages like Python and Java, and you can treat it as its own module, and you can actually use it. So now you have magically, all of a sudden, you have my name now available inside of this file once you go through the necessary steps, and you package it through Webpack. So that's how that works. And then explain named exports and default exports. So that's what I was just trying to go over and I couldn't remember it. So there are two different ways to use exports in your code. Named exports and default exports. We just looked at default exports. So basically the general rule of thumb is if you want to export multiple functions, use named exports written in this pattern. So basically the nutshell is if you only, like I was mentioning a minute ago, if you only have one export and one name, use default. Both use strict mode, but the benefit of using named exports like this is you can export multiple functions and import multiple functions, which is a nice flexibility because say you only wanted to use function 1 and not function 2, you could actually just use function 1 and call it and not even import function 2, and it'll save your application processing time and save the end user processing time on the browser side. So because it doesn't have to process that function 2 because you don't need it, you didn't use it. So why import it? Have it chew up processing time. So that is the main difference. There's more than just that to it, but I highly encourage you to read through everything and to gain a further understanding. And that is it. So quite a bit to go over today. Again, it would have been a whole lot longer had I went through the exercise with you, but highly encourage you to give that a go. And with all that said, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. And let me know in the comments section what your thoughts are on NPM and Webpack and creating ES6 modules. And next time we'll be hitting up 20% complete. Next time we'll be hitting up Webpack, probably going into more detail on it. And then it'll be back onto a project. So with all that said, till next time, see ya.